The Still Loading podcast is brought to you by the wonderful people on Patreon. Amazing people like Sang S, Mike from the Old Switcheroo podcast, Parallax Puddles, Melissa S, Ryan K, Pib Extra, Matt aka Stormageddon, Kevin from the Bit by Bit Foundation, Doug from the Nostalgia Marcanum podcast, Gilmer, Stephen P, and Mr. Biscuits have all been wonderful enough to support the show over there. So if you would also like to get your name read at the beginning of an episode, along with a bunch of other goodies, go over to patreon.com/stillloadingpod and check out everything it has to offer. On this episode of Still Loading, fighting fascists, so cathartic. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the Still Loading podcast. I'm your host, Josh Koval, and today's episode, it is the second episode of Punch a Nazi Month. That's right, a month dedicated to punching some Nazis in the goddamn mush where they deserve it. We're here to talk about another game all about just getting rid of these fascist assholes. We're here to talk about the Saboteur. I forget which generation, a PS3, Xbox 360 game back from 2009. Joining me to check the game off their backlog, but also to chat about punching some Nazis, my good friend Matt, aka Stormageddon. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me back. As you can hear, my voice is hoarse. It's because I've been shouting angrily at those Nazis before I punched them in the face. So, gave out the voice in the process. But I'm excited to be here and excited to have finally played this game.
Excited to have you on and excited to also have finally played this game. When I put it on the list for Punch a Nazi Month this year, it was mainly just because last year I did the first Wolfenstein and technically the second Medal of Honor because I covered the first one previously on the show. So this year I'm doing another Wolfenstein and another Medal of Honor, but I wanted to throw another ringer in there. So I thought the Saboteur would be a really good kind of something that was unexpected because honestly, not a lot of people talk about this game. And it's kind of, it's sad that it's a little more prescient now, but it's also it's honestly kind of underrated in my opinion, and we'll get into all that. But Matt, I want to throw it over to you. You already kind of alluded to it, like you were able to finally play this game, but what is your personal history with the Saboteur?
So I don't have any. There's a possibility in the 360 era that I rented it and don't really remember it. Once you get into your almost mid 40s, memory becomes a lot hazier. But that said, it's one of those games that I remember seeing a lot. I remember the commercials for. It's from Pandemic Studios, who were huge at the time. They had done, of course, the Battlefront games, which were probably their biggest claim to fame, and the games I played the most from them. But I remember seeing this and thinking, oh, that looks cool. And 360 era was the only era I had an Xbox console. So to me, this game was very closely associated with that. I never got around to playing it. And then I remember seeing people post about it and or sharing their thoughts on it, here and there, but never really people going into great detail about what they thought of the game, how it was, what they want, what their opinions are of it. It was just kind of around, but I knew it was, a game about Nazi occupied Paris and this fighting back against the Nazis during World War II. And so I was always curious about it. And, for reasons this year specifically, or the last few years, I'd been more eager to play games in that space. And so you might say they're cathartic for reasons. And so I'd been curious about it. And then, I ended up and so I tried to emulate it. Xbox 360 emulation is still kind of wonky. It doesn't always work, but I would always be curious about it. So I kind of put it to the back of my head for a while. And then I was chatting with you, and we were talking about Punch Nazi month and some of the other, your Mario month this year and all of that stuff. And you mentioned that this game was on your list, and I went, "Oh, I've always been meaning to play that game." And you're like, "Do you want to come on the show to play it?" And I was like, "Sure, why not? I'll throw it on my backlog and I'll finally play it." And so I picked it up for Steam. Even though the interface on Steam tells you the controller doesn't work with it, thankfully it lies, and the controller works perfectly with it. I had no issues. But other than that, yeah, I picked it up. I think we were chatting back and forth once we had decided to do it. I added it to my backlog list, and then wish listed it on Steam. And so you get emails every time one of your wish list items goes on sale. And I got a message that it was like $10. And I was like, well, there's no better time than now to buy it for $10. And I mean, I got more than my value for it. We'll talk more about it. But yeah, it was a game that I always had seen, like a lot of the open world games of that era, but I never got around to. I mean, also at this time, there were like so many of these kinds of games. And so it was just, at the time, I thought it was just another one of those.
And I mean, you wouldn't be wrong for thinking that one of this game's big competition for when it came out was Assassin's Creed 2. So it really kind of didn't stand much of a chance in the wake of the popularity of the Assassin's Creed series,
Considering I played the Ezio trilogy as it came out, that's why I didn't play this. There's your answer, because I know I was playing those games instead, probably.
Yeah, man. It really kind of had an uphill battle, and it is a shame too, because Pandemic Studios, this was their swan song. This was the last game they made before they closed down. But besides being famous for the first two Battlefront games, which were phenomenal games, they also did the Mercenaries game, the fully destructible playground, the fully destructible environment game that was on the PS2 and 360. I guess actually was Mercenaries PS2, Xbox. I mean, double check. Yeah, PS2 and original Xbox, and then there was Mercenaries 2, which I don't know what happened with. I mean, it came out. I just don't know. Excuse me, what it came out on. 360, PS3, and PS2. Believe it or not, interesting. Yeah. So, Pandemic. This was their last game before they were shuttered, unfortunately, and it's a bummer too, because they kind of set this game up for a little bit of a sequel that obviously wouldn't ever come, because this was the studio, was shuttered. For my own experience, though, very similar to yours, man. Like, I heard about it back when it came out. I remember a Zero Punctuation video where I might have watched it, and he talked about it. And actually, one of the big, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but one of the big thematic elements of the gameplay involving color, I knew about prior to starting it. So when you messaged me, and we'll get into it in just a moment, listeners, for those who aren't aware of it, when you messaged me with, surprised about it, I was like, oh, that's awesome that you went into that not knowing, because that's even cooler when it happens. So I heard about it from there, because I at the time when I watched that, I didn't realize how much of a joke Yahtzee's shtick was. Like I took it a little bit too serious. I took his stuff a little bit too serious, instead of taking it for what it is, which is a very tongue-in-cheek, like just making fun of every game no matter what type of thing. Which for some reason I assumed that these were always his opinions, and not realizing this is kind of just a joke. But being naive, and I guess in my early 20s back when this came out. So I didn't really give it too much of a thought, and then I was like, you know what? I really like the overall visual aesthetic of this game. I love the art, like the production artwork. The stuff that's on the cover, the back, wallpapers that would have come with it, type of thing. Like, really cool art, like artwork and art direction in general, both for in the game and as well as for production materials and stuff like that. And that's kind of what, when I was looking through my library of games for games to cover on Punch and Nazi month, it jumped out at me. I was like, you know what? It's about goddamn time. Let's sabotage some Nazis. And that's kind of the inspiration for starting it out with, or for starting off playing this. So it's fun that both of us got to experience this, for the first time. And I'm excited to hear, our thoughts on this. Some quick facts about the game before we dive into the conversation. It was originally released on December 3rd, 2009 in Australia, and then December 4th in Europe, also in 2009, and it didn't come out in North America until December 8th of 2009. It's an odd like release structure. I would never have thought that, especially considering. Let me double check. Is Pandemic, it was an American studio too, and it was published by Activision, so or EA, excuse me, published by EA. So it's interesting that it came out in Australia first, at least according to Wikipedia. Um, some goofy little fun facts. There wasn't a whole lot I found about the individual development. Um, some of the stuff I did find, though, there was some cut levels that I can provide a link in the show notes. One of the production designers, like one of the graphic artists that worked on the game, name what's his name? I'm going to have to look it up real quick. I have the link. I'll click on the. I'll look up the link in just a second. But Jason Hazelroth is his name, and he has a blog. He had a blog post back in 2009 showcasing some of the stuff that was cut. There was going to be like a secret rocket base in the side of a mountain called Valhalla, not Valhalla, just Valhalla, like VALHALL. And he showed some like concept art from it. It's really cool. I'll include a link in the show notes. And if you're curious, Matt, I will put it in Discord as well. But yeah, just really cool little tidbits of stuff, of cut content, that kind of thing. The original PC version apparently did not work with ATI graphics cards at all. They had a workaround for it though, and it was by having the user disable multi-core processing on their PC. So if you had a multi-core processor, which most did in 2009, at least dual core, you had to make it a single core, and obviously that would make your PC much slower. So there was a whole kerfuffle about that, just trying to get the game to work on PC for a while. The last little fun fact I have, this is something, a little bit of history. For some context, before I give this fun fact, the plot of the Saboteur, and this will be a full topic in just in a little bit on the episode, but just the basic overview of the plot. You play as a character named Sean Devlin, who is an Irish race car driver. He immigrated to France to escape a criminal past. And he is racing around, like he's a professional race car driver. So you're in a race and you're racing against, the favorite is like this German driver who turns out to be a Nazi military person, like one of the higher ups in the Nazi command. The Nazi dude cheats and causes you to lose because he shoots out your tires. And to get revenge, you decide to drive his car, like sneak into his car factory and drive his car off a cliff, which ends up getting you captured. And we're not in a spoiler section just yet, but something happens that makes you want to get revenge. That's all I'll say for now. And then obviously the crux of the game is you working as Sean Devlin, working with the French resistance to take back Paris from the Nazis. But Sean is kind of a little bit more, he's not in it necessarily for freedom. He's more in it for revenge. And we'll get to all that in just a moment. But the reason I give that context is Sean was actually based off of a real person. There was a real life World War II race car driver named William Grover Williams. Wait, that can't be right. I want to make sure I put that down. If it's William Grover Williams, that's fucking wild. It is. It's William Grover Williams. That poor son of a bitch. His parents named him his last name. It just gave him the same first name. That's wild. Anyway, he was a British race car driver that was living in France when World War II broke out. He actually evacuated with the British at Dunkirk and was recruited by the SOE, which stands for Special Operations Executive. And he was eventually sent back to France to work with the resistance because he could speak French and English. He was blind parachute dropped into France. I forget, on Wikipedia gave a specific location, but which I don't remember. But he was just parachute dropped into France, no radio, no nothing. Like there was no way for him to contact any of his higher ups at SOE. So he was sent to go basically rendezvous with his wife. He did have a wife who lived in Paris, and set up a resistance network in Paris. And one of his more famous resistance efforts was he successfully led a sabotage mission for the Citroën factory, the famous car manufacturer.
Hmm.
He sabotaged a Citroën factory in Paris. He was unfortunately eventually captured and killed by the Nazis. He was captured, I want to say, in like 43 or 44, and then he was. It's been reported that he was killed in 1945. However, the granddaughter of one of his resistance peers, I forget the exact which one it was, claims he survived the war and lived with his wife until her death, under a different name, under the name Georges Tombol. I don't know if that's true or not. I just found that kind of wild that it's there's a theory that William Grover Williams survived and just changed his name. And kind of, if he did do that, if he did change his name, I don't know if I don't know if ironic is the right term or not, but Tombol did end up getting killed in 1983 while riding a bicycle by a German driver. So so that's wild though. What are the odds that, like, if that's really the case, that he, like, taking it at face value that he did survive, and he just changed his name and lived under an assumed name, only to be killed by a German anyway. Like, that's heartbreaking if that's true.
Yeah.
So that is all the fun facts that I have for the game. Like I said, I didn't really have much in terms of development history I could find. I found some interviews, but a lot of it is just very, fluff pieces, like, this is what's coming up in the game, and we're going to tell you about what's in the game in just a moment. So nothing really too interesting from the behind the scenes that I could find. Doesn't mean it's not there, just, wasn't able to locate it. So to dive into the game in earnest, I've been talking for a little while now. So Matt, I want to throw it over to you. I want to hear your thoughts on the gameplay. What's one of the first things that stuck out to you about this game as you played as Sean, going through the city and revitalizing Paris? Like, what's something that stuck out to you? What are some of your favorite elements? And just talk about the gameplay in general.
So, I mean, the thing that was shocking about the gameplay, and now again, I'm playing on Steam on the PC. It's possible it's gotten some updates or got some updates before from whoever ported it to the PC, or later on, or I know sometimes the Steam community or Steam itself helps with that, like just running better. But it looked and ran great. Like, I didn't have any lag, I didn't have any stuttering, I didn't have any graphical issues. And yeah, the gameplay, I mean, it's pretty standard as far as open world games go. Think of GTA comes to mind just because it's the most well known. You get around the city by stealing cars, pulling people out of cars, jumping in. The driving, actually, for a game of this era, was pretty tight. I'm usually pretty bad at driving games, though I like playing them. But this one actually had some pretty great driving as far as control, and it wasn't too simmy. It was very much arcadey, like, allowing you to have control on the road. The combat, there's you can sneak up on enemies and fist fight them, and or you can use guns and shoot them. I found a shotgun early, and that became my favorite kind of gun throughout the rest of the game, mostly because less aiming involved, more spread shot, which is usually my MO
Yep.
in most shooting games, third or first person. But all of it felt good. None of it felt dated. None of it felt like poorly optimized. Games from this era are kind of all over the map when you revisit them without any improvements. I mean, I think of Mass Effect, a game I love, and how poorly the shooting is in that first game. So, like, for this game to have solid aim, solid shooting, you can get behind cover. It's not really a third-person shooter in, say, like a Gears of War way. But you are encouraged to hide behind cover. You don't like stick to cover in the same way. There's not a lot of running from point to point like in some of the more aggressive third-person shooters. And then you can also stealth. I rarely stealth. The thing I think I liked most about this game very early on is that most of the combat encounters are contained to a specific spot, and for the most part, once you finish those missions, you just have to get out of the area and either hide somewhere or just get far enough, and then everything resets and no one's looking for you. Towards the end of the game, there were some moments where I was running for like 10 minutes from Nazis until I could finally escape somewhere. But in the most of the rest of the game, it was pretty easy to get away, which I love because I like stealth games well enough. I did play Metal Gear Solid for the first time ever this year and enjoyed it, but I'm not good at stealth games. I'm very bad at taking things slow. I like to go loud pretty much always, and this game favored that. The combat was actually like leaned into it. Yeah, and I enjoyed all of it. I thought it played really well. I had a good time. I found myself looking forward to playing it every time I got to go back to it. I think that the gameplay, I think it's all aged pretty well, but I'd say the gameplay is the thing that aged the best of anything in this game.
I'm definitely in agreement with you on that with the gameplay. I don't know maybe if your PC port is more fine tuned than the version I played. I played on the PS3. The PS3 also is a little janky in general for most games, just because of the architecture on the PS3, which I've grown to love. But I actually think the jankiness for me really worked in this game, and I'll get to why in just a moment. Um, the big mechanic, we alluded to it before, like as you take out Nazi strongholds and do different missions, you return color to the city, and like that's just such a cool thing. Like I can't get over, like it's such a great way to do have your story be told through gameplay, because as more color comes back to the city, the citizens, I never really encountered this because I didn't do a lot of fighting, like I didn't cause chaos on the street, at least not on purpose. But if you do, and you do it in like a area of the city that's returned to color, there will be citizens that will help you fight back against the Nazis, which is such a cool mechanic. Like it really kind of the theme of the game of you building a resistance, and when you take back the city, the citizenry will actually help you. So it's reinforcing the themes of resistance by having people fight with the resistance. The more you give them hope, the more willing they are to fight. Really, really cool game mechanic that they have with it. Because there's even elements, I didn't use it too often. I don't know, did you use it, Matt, where like you can call in reinforcements? I never used it for some reason.
I never used it. I always forgot I had it, and then I think I used it once, and it didn't really help, and so I stopped using it.
Yeah, I the same, because there's like an upgrade you can get where like when you call in reinforcements, a shop will get set up. I'm like, that's
Oh,
interesting.
interesting.
I never really needed it. I never really ran out of ammo per se. But like I think what makes this game so cathartic, as we've touched on already, like there's something cathartic about this game, and it's not just the fact that it's like a cool game mechanic. It's, in conjunction with the period of time we are in the US, and kind of like what we are dealing with on a political level, without going into the specifics, because y'all, nah, it's already too heavy. I don't feel like I get angry about this every single day. I don't need to vent it again. But it's very cathartic in this to walk up to a Nazi tower, place some dynamite, and just yeet off the side of the building, try it before it blows up. And I got to ask you though, Matt, when you try to traverse the buildings, like especially like if you have like one of those Nazi watchtowers on top of a building and you have to go off the edge to climb back down, was that janky for you? Because that was janky as hell for me.
I think the climbing is the weakest part of the gameplay. I didn't mind it. It felt very of the era, but because of the way that Sean will basically grab every ledge on the way down, like every single one, it's slow to climb down. And then I would also find that sometimes he wouldn't grab certain ledges, and it wasn't always clear which ledges he could grab. Like, I definitely struggled on the escape often. Most of the time, I would just jump off roofs and hope that I wouldn't die when I hit the ground, which helped. But yeah, I did find that the climbing was a challenge, not in a way that broke the game, but definitely in a little bit of like a, early 2010s, late 2000s game would be at that time.
The best way I can describe the gameplay as well, especially with games that were contemporary to it, like you already mentioned before, Matt, Grand Theft Auto, but also Infamous. I would say it's got a lot of flavors of Infamous in it. Specifically like the traversal, like the climbing buildings and stuff like that. And a little bit in terms of the like the third person shooter stuff, a little bit of Uncharted. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
cover shooter like Uncharted, but it's definitely got some Uncharted vibes to it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, playing through it because I have never played Infamous, but I played all the Uncharted games when I got a PS4. I played the collection and then eventually the fourth game, and Lost Legacy is the best game in the franchise. Fight me.
Mhm.
I know you won't.
You're not
I
wrong.
know you agree, but the general audience still doesn't. But they'll catch up. Chloe is one of the best characters in the entire series. I will fight a person.
Mhm.
Um, but that said, loving those games and never getting tired of the Uncharted formula because I loved the climbing and exploring and the gunplay was fine, but the storytelling, this definitely has a vibe of that, even down to the main character being a Nathan Drake type. They're not identical, but like when we start talking about the story and the characters, I have the hook that got me into this game. That is why I kept playing story wise. Besides having fun, we'll get to that. But yeah, I think Uncharted is the best overlap for the way the game plays, like exploration sections, stealth sections, gunplay sections. It's not mission based quite in the same way as Uncharted was. It's probably closer to Uncharted 4 because that one was more open area and more
Mhm.
explorable than the kind of straight line that the other three games were.
Now, you referenced the problems you had with the climbing mechanics, how if when you're trying to drop down, Sean will grab every single ledge. Did you know if you hold the drop button, Sean will drop more than one ledge down?
Definitely did not, but I don't know that the game actually taught you that. The tutorials were pretty good, but there were definitely a few things that like took time for me to figure out because the game didn't always explicitly tell you. Like
Mm.
the stealth combat, like it's not really stealth combat. Sean has the same
No.
fighting stance. You just sometimes get lucky and knock someone out before. Like most games like this, when you stealth up behind someone, there's like a special like indicator, like you could do a stealth attack and take them out quietly. Sean doesn't do that. He just punches them from behind until they die. Um,
Oh, interesting. Mine has a stealth takeout for the PS3.
really, oh, then maybe I was just doing it wrong the whole time. To be fair, I also didn't stealth very much after the midpoint of the game because I was just like, fuck it, let's go in guns blazing.
Mm, mm. So, like, what the way it works in PS3, I would assume it'd be for yours too, but you hold down L1 to kind of go into crouch stealth mode,
Hmm.
and then you can only do the insta stealth kill if you're in crouch stealth mode and you get up behind the enemy. So you walk up behind them, you hit square, essentially like you just elbow the dude in the head until he dies, and then it's in vice versa. Maybe triangle does that, but the other one just does a full neck snap, like straight out of Metal Gear Solid. You just snap their necks.
You know what it
Um,
might have been is because the controllers weren't like they were mapped, but definitely not well. Maybe the
mm.
button just wasn't mapped. I never actually went into the settings to look. Like I said, after like a third to half of the game, I didn't bother stealthing much anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, you don't really need to. Stealth is. I had a fun time trying it, but it really like there's so many moments that it's just like they'll say like be stealthy and then you try and then you get caught instantly and it's not really worth it. Like
Yeah.
it's better just if you enjoy the gameplay you can just go in guns blazing. um with that said, the thing I love the most about it, I mentioned before how I kind of loved how janky it was, and I mean that because I think it actually, and I don't think it was intentional. I think it was a byproduct of maybe the PS3. It's also a byproduct of my specific PS3 controller, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But the PS3 in general has a little bit, like jankier frame rates than like the 360 or the PC. And then on top of that, you have the fact that like there's no button you hit to like climb down a ladder. You have to like walk over to the ladder and then just kind of walk off the edge, and then Sean will automatically grab it before he falls. The thing about the jankiness that really kind of worked for me was that it kind of it felt thematically correct for a scrappy resistance movement,
Yeah.
right? It felt like, like these are people just flying by the seat of their pants, just trying to figure out anything they can possibly do to push back against the regime that is invading their city. And they will do anything they can. And because of that, it's just the weirdest, jankiest stuff. And it's not actually the weirdest, jankiest stuff, but like I feel like because they're scrappy, the jankiness kind of thematically matches that scrappiness. And I kind of loved that.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that So this so this game, it'll be more relevant as we talk about the plot and stuff, which we'll get to. I kept saying online that this is the most dudes rock game I had played in a long time. And what I mean by that is it's just you play a guy fighting other guys. You know, it's a dude punching dudes to save other dudes. And it just and there are actually some really there are some well-written women characters, there are some cliche women characters. Like it's not a perfect game, but like I would say that actually the women in this game had a lot of agency. Your home base is a brothel, and I have experience DJing in burlesque for many years, and so like there was some authenticity actually to the space and stuff,
Oh,
which I
good
thought
to
was
know.
cool, which we'll talk about more. But like it's just there's so you know, Josh and I were talking a little bit offline about how I'm kind of overwhelmed by most open world games, especially modern ones. They're just too big. Funny Games did an episode on this, talking about the anxiety of the open world experience. This is several years ago now, and I shared how like a lot of them give me agita, for lack of a better word, because they just seem so daunting. Unless I'm really
Hmm.
sucked in, like the Spider-Man games or like the Wolverine game, I think is going to be open world, I assume, and I'm going to eat that shit up because I have a brand. But um, but you know, I always find a lot of the larger open worlds of modern games pretty daunting. I didn't get very far in Ghost of Yotei, even though it's a phenomenal game, because I looked at the map and saw all the markers and went, man, I'm good. Um, but this game, because it was a little smaller, because of how it was structured and how it was kind of mission to mission base, I got really sucked into the gameplay, and it was just one of those Xbox 360 ass games that I remember growing up playing that I haven't played in so long, that kind of just fit like a glove, and I got absolutely sucked in. And I think the minorly imperfect gameplay, the parkour, the hand to hand combat, the shooting, all of that kind of felt in concert with that, and like really just kind of pulled me in a way that even surprised me. I remember writing you, and you basically had the same reaction, like, oh, I'm really like, I think we both went into this game going, we'll probably have a good time, it'll probably be fine. And when
Hmm.
we ended up, like within the first few hours, both of us were like, this game's really great and I love it. And that just kind of caught me off guard, and then I just kind of leaned in after that.
Yeah, so much like after I beat it and after I messaged you that I beat it, I actually went back and I did because there's like racing you can do in the game as well, like as like side quests. I did all the racing side quests after I'd already beaten the game, just because the driving was really fun.
Yeah.
Even though I have to ask you this as well. Did the driving feel floaty? Like, not necessarily in a bad way, but did you find that it took, like, the cars wouldn't, like, if you try to move a car to the like steer to the left or the right, it didn't react right away?
Uh, no, I don't think so. The driving felt pretty responsive to me. I mean, it felt like, as someone who played a Need for Speed game, because the Play Along podcast put me up to it, it's their fault. Last year,
Mhm.
where that was a simi kind of driving game, and so it was really articulate and detailed, and I felt like I could never steer the car well. I don't know. It to this felt maybe a little more arcadey, but like it didn't feel floaty to me, because I felt like I was in more control of this car than a modern-ish Need for Speed game, which is bizarre because a lot of these older Grand Theft Auto likes had terrible driving. Typically, I think of LA Noire, which also came out around the same time, which had the worst driving I think I've ever played in a game like that.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know if it was the PC version or what, but yeah, I didn't really have any issues with the driving. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the couple of races that you had to do in the story. Not enough to do more of them, but I enjoyed them when I was doing them.
Mhm. Now that's interesting, because I'm with you on that with the driving. As much as it was a little bit, once again, janky, it still, like, the jankiness was consistent, which I guess is kind of anti-jank, but whatever. It felt a little bit off, but once you kind of got used to it, that's why I think it was mainly maybe the PS3 port. Like, maybe there was some input delay. Um, and one thing I mentioned in, that added to the jankiness for me was my personal PS3 controller. So, fun fact about Josh's game collection: I've had two PS3s now where the Bluetooth adapter just kaputs, it just dies, and because of that, I can't get onto Wi-Fi at all on my PS3 anymore. And because the Bluetooth adapter dies along with the Wi-Fi, that also means all my controllers can't connect wirelessly; they have to be hardwired in.
Oh,
So I have my a blue PS3 controller that I got from my grandmother years ago with an infamous collection. It's this wonderful blue, and I plug it in with a normal USB. I think it's a USB, not a USB-C, just a regular USB cord, right? But I guess the plug spot is a little loose. So what happens sometimes is if the wire jiggles in the wrong way while it's in the controller port to plug it into the PS3 for me to play, it will phantom inputs. It will do inputs that I never pressed.
Huh.
So periodically, Matt, I would be walking down the street minding my own goddamn business, and Sean would decide just to take out a rifle and start hurling grenades everywhere, just chucking nades all the live long day. And let me tell you, there was a lot of times I had to escape from a lot of Nazis that I did not intend to attract because the controller decided to freak the fuck out. And normally I would hate this, but in all honesty, I had so much fun with it, and I can't tell you why, because I wasn't doing it. Like I would hit, so on the PS3 controller to put your weapon away, you hit circle, and I would hit circle, and he would stuff the rifle away. So like maybe no grenades were being thrown, but I'd be in front of some like Nazis, and a rifle would come out, and they'd be like, "Huh, what's that?" And I go, "Oh fuck!" And I would put the rifle away before their suspicion would go too high, because we'll get into that in a moment. There is a suspicion meter. And so I put it away. But because it's still phantom inputs, Sean would immediately take it back out. I'm like, "You son of a bitch." I hit circle again, and you put it back in his pocket, like the entire rifle right into his pocket. And then it would just come out again. And eventually it would just start shooting. And it honestly felt like the Danny DeVito meme from It's Always Sunny, and anyways, I started blasting.
Yeah.
That's how it felt, and it made it even more fun when I'm in the middle of a tense fight and I'm like trying to there's a lot of enemies, and I'm like really like in a good way stressed, and then all of a sudden he just starts hurling grenades. I'm like, "No, stop!" And then I would kill myself sometimes by accident doing that. Normally, like I said, I would hate this, and it's not the game's fault. It was just my equipment. It's all good, but it lent to the jankiness of the overall game. And so having this scrappy resistance team, and when you're trying to plant some dynamite on a tower and then walk off the edge so you can climb back down the building, only to have Sean suicide off and yell, "Oh fuck," as he's dropping down 4 stories, somehow magically surviving. It just made it so much better. I loved so much of the gameplay of this. I loved so many moments within this game. It was great. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I really love the gameplay of this. And like this about me, but for the listener, in case somehow they missed all the other episodes I've done, I am someone who can shoulder bad gameplay for good storytelling. Bad's a harsh word, but gameplay I don't love. But it's the opposite is very rare. Like if I don't like the game, if I don't like the story of a game, it's unlikely I'll just play for the gameplay, with some exceptions. I'll basically play any Metroidvania with good gameplay, story or not, especially since a lot of them don't have story anyway. But like this, like I expected the story to be kind of nothing and the gameplay to be fine, and I would just play it. But I was surprised by both, and the gameplay for sure is what I kept coming back for. Like I liked the story, but the gameplay was really engaging, and I felt myself getting really sucked in. And again, it felt like it made me very nostalgic. It just felt like what I remember these games being like, whether they were like that. It's like the modern beat 'em ups. Like they always make me feel like how those old Nintendo and Super Nintendo beat 'em ups felt, like the diversity of the gameplay and stuff. And so like this gave me that vibe, but it's from that time. Now, again, I don't really know the lineage of the Steam version. There may have been updates to it and stuff, but that said, I really dug it, and I had a great time.
Now, before we move on to any other topics for this game, one final section of the gameplay we should definitely discuss. And it's something you said you didn't play much of. It's the stealth part, because there is like a whole stealth mechanic to this game. And I actually I liked what how can I put this? I think the mechanic itself was really clever, a really clever way to do stealth in an open world game. I think the way they designed the mission structure for that stealth was a little poor because it didn't lend itself to the stealth all that often. Sometimes it did. Sometimes you could get around away with it, but for the most part, like most missions didn't really lend themselves to stealth. Even if you were trying to, even if they told you, oh, you should be stealthy. So the way that the stealth mechanics work in this, and I think it's really cool, is that it's kind of in conjunction with the suspicion meter as we referenced before. So when you're just walking down the street, if you are in normal civvy clothes, nothing happens. Like unless you decide to bump into a Nazi, they're not going to really bother you. You do see the Nazis doing some fucked up shit, like like murdering people in the streets, which is hard to watch, or harassing people just for no reason. What could that be like? But you if you're wearing just your normal clothes, they generally don't bother you. If you either shoot your gun, not even at anyone, but just shoot it, or you throw a grenade or you do something, then usually there is like on the little mini map on the bottom, then there's like a yellow circle, which is an area of investigation, and the Nazis will come investigate. If you are still in that area by the time that their suspicion meter, which you can see the suspicion, that is so hard to say, the suspicion meter, it's a yellow bar that goes up and around in a circle around the mini map in the bottom left. If it goes all the way up, then they are onto you, and now your first alert level, very similar to GTA, how like you have 1 star on you. They're chasing after you, and you have to try to get away. If you leave that suspicion area before they can investigate or before their suspicion meter goes up at all, then you're good to go. They're like, you could be literally a foot outside of it, and they're just like looking at the ground, going like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And you'll be just suspiciously standing there, and they're fine. You're outside of the meter, or you're outside of the area. It's all good. Um, when you are wearing, like, if you decide to disguise yourself as a Nazi, I think this is actually one of the most genius stealth things in a game, because a lot of times in games, if you wear an outfit, um, no, it's just automatically assumed they're gonna like believe you are part of whatever person you're dressing up. Like, if are you dressed up as a chef, you're clearly a chef. I'm thinking like Hitman, right? Like, where as soon as you dress up as someone, the 95% of the people are going to know, like, just assume you are who you are dressed as. In this, however, there's different ways they handle it. So if you're dressed up as a Nazi, there are a handful of like officers that know the members of their unit, and they have like an area of like inspection, which is constantly follows them wherever they walk, and you can once again see that area of inspection on the mini map. But if you're not in that, if you're just walking around other people who have no idea who you are, then the way it works is that if you are walking, how can I put this? There's another circle. It's like a dashed line, which is like an area of suspicion, I guess, for lack of a better term. So if you're sprinting, that area of suspicion is huge. So any Nazi within that area of suspicion that once again you can see it on the mini map is going to be like intrigued by you. They'll go like, huh? And their suspicion meter will then go up, and you have to get away from them. If you are just jogging, it's smaller, but it still is expanded a little bit. And if there's people too close to you, they will be like, "Hey, what is this guy doing here? That's odd behavior. I don't recognize him." If you are just walking, the circle is incredibly small. They basically have to be next to you. But if they are next to you, you're still arousing their suspicion, because once again, they don't know who you are. Like, you are not someone they have seen before in their unit. So I like this mechanic a lot, because it kind of addresses a little bit of the suspension of, like the cognitive dissonance, I guess, of like, how do none of these people know that you're not part of them? Then you're just some random guy that just showed up. And usually it's always because like, oh, there's just so many people that how can they keep track of everybody? I like that they have it this way, where it adds a little layer of challenge on top of it, and generally it created a lot of fun tension for me in the game, where like I would have to balance like um I would have to balance like, you know, let me run past this guy quick, even though it'll increase my suspicion zone a little bit more. But if I can get past him fast enough before he turns around and starts like walking towards me to investigate, then I'm good to go. So it created like this fun risk reward system where it's like, if you want to go through it quickly, you can, but you have to be smart with where you're moving. But if you take your time, it takes longer, obviously, because you're taking your time, but you can then navigate more places than you could otherwise because your suspicion like zone, I guess, is smaller. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think while I didn't always vibe with it, I think it like again, some of it's a me problem, right? I said I'm not good at stealth games. I do, but I will admit when I had to do stealth, I was able to find my way. Like there was one where you had to climb a building to get into a sniper perch, and like the game gave you paths and like different like what are they called when it's like, painters use these scaffolding, when they had like scaffolding that you could climb and stuff, like they really gave you paths to figure it out. And while
Hmm.
often I broke stealth pretty easily, you could still like there's no mission that required stealth that you couldn't shoot your way out of. It would be difficult
Yes.
but not impossible. And the game had a variety of difficulty options, which I appreciated, because games back then it was hit or miss whether they actually gave you difficulty options or not, or didn't penalize you for it. And so like while I didn't love it, it worked well enough, and I never felt like it hindered my ability to play the game. There were some missions I repeated over and over again because I'd keep dying or whatever, but like it never felt like the game was failing. I felt like my skills were failing because I am only a
Hmm.
subpar third person shooter player and stealth player. Um, and I like when you're in a disguise. If you walk slowly, the circle's really tiny. If you walk fast, it gets bigger. If you run, it gets bigger. Right? Like they really diversified how certain mechanics help you and hinder you in those positions, and I think it was really smartly done.
Yeah, I think like it'd be so easy to do stealth missions like to, I don't want to say bare bones it, but like that it's a really honestly an in-depth complicated mechanic that I haven't seen replicated. Granted, I don't do a lot of stealth games, to be fair. So I'm sure there's probably something out there that's done something similar. But like, I don't know. I think it's such a good stealth mechanic, especially because, like you were saying, Matt, you don't need to adhere to stealth if you don't want to. But it is really satisfying. If like there was a couple missions I went in and walked out without ever having the alarm raised on me. It didn't happen often.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time just blowing shit up, but especially there's like one side mission where you have to. I went in stealth at first and it was a mistake, but there's like 6 or 7 different zeppelins in like a courtyard type of thing. And so I was just running around with a shotgun just shooting zeppelins out of the sky. It was awesome. Just so much chaos. And I try to do that stealthily, but once again, not every mission is designed for it. But like you said, Matt, to the game's credit, you don't need to do stealth. You don't have to at all. Um real just I just think the stealth mechanic though is just a really masterful way to give the player the sensation of like sneaking into a base, like that sense of anxiety of like, am I going to be caught? Because like if you walk too close to someone, you can be. And I really wish more games would like utilize that. If you're going to make us do a stealth mission, do something like that. Like um I it'll be talked about in next week's episode, but in Medal of Honor Allied Assault, was it Allied Assault or was it? No, it was last week's episode, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which the time we're recording this, the episode hasn't been recorded. So hopefully I'm going to make sure to put a footnote in that I bring it up. But there's a stealth mission in that game where it's not really stealth. It's just you have to follow a very specific path. And there's a couple bottlenecks where it's like you just wait for an enemy to turn the other way so you can walk past. That's not really stealth. It's just kind of like follow this hyper specific path, otherwise you fail. This is like genuine stealth where it's like you can approach the mission in any way that you want to, and the stealth mechanics give you the freedom to try a bunch of different things. Uh, it doesn't always work, obviously, like we said, but they also give you the way out where you can just, you know, go fucking crazy and shoot things up. But yeah, I just, once again, the stealth is really freaking cool. Really underrated part of this game. I feel like, considering it's so much fun just to go around blowing stuff up. There is a lot of like extra bonus targets you can do, and if you buy the maps, you can actually see all the targets, and it's very much in the same vein as almost Assassin's Creed and like other open world games of this era, where it's like, do you want to do everything? Well, good fucking luck. There's literally 500 of these things for you to do.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So I don't have much more to say on the gameplay, Matt. Is there any other final thoughts on the gameplay specific before we move on to the next section?
No, I think we covered it. The game has some mini games also that you can play that came with the DLC that was included in the Steam version. There's also a nudity setting because your first home base is a burlesque house. And they actually put in some burlesque numbers that you can watch, which for the time, at least motion capture wise, not too bad, pretty accurate. All the character models kind of look a little plasticky at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's of an era, but like as someone who's seen a lot of burlesque shows and like has done research on burlesque of that time, like I think they were pretty faithful to it. You know, the women character models in the burlesque, some of them were actually the same character model multiplied, which I noticed pretty early, which was hilarious to me. And all of them also have the
Yeah.
exact same body type, which was absolutely untrue of that time. Like all women of shapes and sizes performed in burlesque shows. So that's, but it's a game probably made by men of that era. So like some suspension of disbelief, I guess, is needed to play a game like this. So that's the only other thing that I would mention is like the burlesque performances and the cool mini games that they added in the DLC.
Apparently there's also like a like you can go to brothels and stuff in general, which I never knew.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's actually true or not. Because in the extra content, apparently, according to Wikipedia, there's new brothels and hiding spots, which I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know there was brothels. I didn't.
So those hiding spots I used a couple times during the game, and basically Sean jumps in the door, and then once the Nazis run past, steps out with one of the women, and then he smokes a cigarette, and she takes a puff, and then he kisses her and walks off. So like it's just a fun little context thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That one, I the first time I saw that, I'm like, this is the hiding spot. I was so confused by it at
Yeah.
first. It was kind of amusing, but all right. So let's go into our thoughts on like the overall presentation, visuals, music, all that good stuff. Um, I'll start off first on this one. I mean, the big thing is obviously the world coming back to color. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a really cool mechanic. It's a great example of art direction that reinforces that it's reinforced with game design and the theme of the game. Like, I'm a big fan of that. I talked about it on our Celeste episode back however long ago that was, about how Celeste's narrative, like its gameplay, is married to its narrative really well. And I think this part of the gameplay, which is more of a visual indication more than a game, though it has some gameplay elements to it as well, um, really is a similar thing. It really reinforces the narrative of resistance. Which is really cool. It looks really good. Overall, the visuals are a little weird looking. Like you described it as plastic. I kind of agree with you on that. It's a little plasticky looking, which some people will like, some people won't. I didn't mind it. I also, once again, chalked it up to being on the PS3, which is janky to begin with in terms of visuals, especially with the frame rate can be a little bit all over the place on the PS3. And other than that, like the music, really fun soundtrack. Like really, like, though I will say they did play "Feeling Good" a little bit too often. Different there, I counted at least 2 or 3 versions of "Feeling Good" from different singers. They all sounded great, but after like the third time, I'm like, okay, I get it. It's a good song. I'm feeling good as well. But come on now. But that was really the only music in the game that really stood out, because you listen to it while you're driving. But that was cool. It was cool that they modified the radio for like old timey sounding, like, and it's not really like ragtime, but like crooner, jazz, lounge music type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback on your comments about the visuals first, like they weren't bad, but there's and you and I on our retrospective podcasts, both of our podcasts, we've talked about how the polygonal era, especially like PS1 to PS3, Xbox to Xbox 360, like some games with more of a unique art style have aged better than say realistic looking games because the realism doesn't look realistic when we get to comparing it to the stuff like Last of Us and Last of Us 2 now, right? Those realistic games. But that said, this had an art style that made me feel like, okay, they're going for realism. The characters also don't look bad. Like the mouth flap animations were a little off sometimes, and the characters did look a little stiff. But like for the most part, especially for the main characters, they were believable, especially Sean. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
once I got used to it, it didn't really bother me. But definitely, if you're looking comparing to like modern graphics, or even the Uncharted series in its early days, I think those were stronger visually than this game. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not terrible at all. And then the world design though I thought was spot on. Everything looked really good. Like the towns looked lived in, kind of comically
Mm-hmm.
so, I think, like a GTA where like you're always almost running people over because there's so many people on the street. And I
Yep.
ran a lot of people over. My bad. But like,
I
it felt
did too.
populated, and the locations look great. The final stages on the Eiffel Tower, which was awesome. Like it really did feel like you were in the city, which I thought was great. And that like color coming back as you explored the countryside and other places and defeated Nazi camps in those different places really, really did make it feel like I lived in space. And yeah, the music, like the score was great. I think it serves its purpose. Like not super memorable, but not bad either. I think just filled the space that a lot of these cinematic games needed at the time. And then like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the actual music direction and the recreations or and like featured tracks of like music from the time or covers of music at the time were great, like from the instrumental stuff on the radio that I thought was great to the actual songs with lyrics, which there were a few of them. Like all of them put me in the place in the time, which I thought was done really well. Like I think the problem with Feeling Good is it also ended up being the end credits song and the end of the game song, which it felt like it fit the character. It's just if I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
heard it on the radio 4 other times while driving around, it would have had more impact. Um, but yeah, I think both are done well. I think the visuals are good, and I'd say the soundtrack was pretty great, especially for the vibe that it supported of the game and the place.
Absolutely. That lived in feeling, you're spot on with that. Like, I did run over way too many civilians by accident. Sometimes they would just like jump in front of you. I'm like,
Yep.
what the fuck are you doing, dude? Come on. Like, you see me driving and you're already leaping out of the way, but you're leaping into the way instead because it's, computer AI, whatever. It, that was a little frustrating at times, though. There was a couple times that I accidentally I accidentally took out a Nazi and started like it with a car. Like I would only do that. There'd be a couple times I would try to run them over on purpose, but they would always dodge out of the way. Like whenever I was trying to hit somebody, cough cough a Nazi, uh, it never worked. They would always jump out of the way. Whenever I wasn't though, I was just driving along and a Nazi would like happen to be walking across the street as I'm turning. Like I would start turning and then he would continue to walk across the street and then his like left foot would get caught underneath my like back left wheel and he just crumple over to the floor and all of a sudden I have a wanted level. I'm like, what the fuck? You walked into me. Come on. It was amusing, but it was annoying at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to move on though. I don't have. I'm so bad at describing visuals. But it looks good. It's a like we both said. It's a really good looking game for the era that it's in. I think overall it like I think the art direction is really strong just in
Hmm.
general. I think the actual like fidelity of the models are fine. Like they are about what you would expect from a 2009 Xbox 360 and PS3 game. But it still looks really good because of the art direction. The art direction is really strong. And also, like when the world is in black and white, like the only thing that's in color are the lights of the windows and the red of like Nazi flags and stuff like that. So it really kind of gives you this evocative, like old timey, black and white World War II documentary feel. to it until you are able to bring resistance back to the area. It's really great. It's a lot of fun. Um, so I want to move on though, Matt, to the story. I've waited this long just because, as much as I'm not necessarily I'm not as strict on spoiler walls as our buddy Dave Jackson is, but there are some games where I do think it's worth waiting to talk about it, just so if people have never played it and they want to get a chance to experience the game without knowing the story, I think this game is one of them. I think this game has a good enough story that I would be remiss if I spoiled it too early for the listeners here. This is the spoiler wall, y'all. Just in case you don't want to know about the plot with this, I will say you will still enjoy the game even if you do know the plot. But just in case, wanted to give y'all a spoiler warning right here. So let's dive into the story, Matt. I mean, I'm not saying I don't know if we should necessarily go beat by beat. I think we start off. What are some of your favorite characters in this? But we already know Sean, and we've touched on some of the female characters in this. But outside of Sean, and I mean, really just Sean, because there's a lot of side characters. What's a side character that really stuck out to you?
Well, before I get into the side characters, Veronique and Skylar are the prominent female characters, and then there's of course a lot more male characters because it's a certain time and era in gaming. But I won't get on my soapbox today. I promise I'll be good. But I want to start with Sean because the reason I love this game so much is because one of my favorite acting humans on the planet, because he's hot and charismatic and makes some of the best damn good and bad movies, is Jason Statham. I've loved Jason Statham since the Transporter era, since Lock, Stock, since Snatch. Oh, he wasn't in Lock. Was he in Lock, Stock?
No, he wasn't. That was his first role.
Yeah.
He had a more minor role in it, but
right.
yeah.
Snatch was the one where he was one of the main story paths. So, I've been a fan of his work forever. I see all of his ridiculous movies. The Meg one was awesome and bad. I still haven't seen The Beekeeper yet, which I really want to see, which came out, I think, last year or 2 years ago. But I love him. I'll watch anything he does, mostly because he's hot and also because I actually think he's a good actor and has really great charisma, especially in an action role. And Sean, besides being Irish, is Jason Statham. 1-to-1.
Oh yeah,
without a doubt. Definitely an inspiration for how this character carries himself. And honestly, if Jason Statham does a decent Irish accent, which I don't actually know if he does, I could see them making a live action movie of this, just putting him in it, and it would be perfect. So that hooked me to begin with because he fell into an archetype that I'm fond of in cheesy action movies. And then I like Veronique because I think Veronique actually has a really great arc in this game. I think she goes from really just so the thing we didn't spoil earlier is that Sean's best friend is killed in that when you send the car off the cliff, you find out that also this German driver is actually a Nazi. He's doing Nazi experiments, and your best friend gets killed for it, and you barely escape with your life. And Veronique gets upset. You flee to Paris, and Veronique is very broken up about it for a while until you meet Luke, one of the leaders of the resistance, who Veronique knows his writing, and then you kind of get wrapped up in this rebel story. And Veronique starts from this kind of very timid, fearful person to with spoiler alert, Luke dies towards the end of the game. He asks you to kill him because he's being crushed by rocks, and Veronique takes the gun from Sean and shoots him and says, "We have more important work to do." And it just shows how being in this terrible situation hardens people in a way that's maybe not even necessarily good, but she had an arc, she had motivation, she had growth. I really loved it. Skylar as a character, more frivolous as a character, not terrible per se, not again the worst, but compared to Veronique, who I really liked, had this really great arc of coming to grips with the Nazi invasion, wanting to put a stop to it, backing up Sean, forgiving Sean. And so she'd probably be one of my picks for one of my favorite side characters.
Yeah, so you're so right, man. And when she makes that turn to being willing to kill, like you said, she kills Luke, puts him out of his misery. To be clear, it's not like she murdered him, but when she kills him on his request, that's such a dramatic moment. It's such a change. I remember playing and going, holy shit, she did it. I was genuinely surprised by that. And And then, like you said, Skylar, she's essentially just she's there for the eye candy.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what her archetype is. Now, and with that said, they at least write her character to kind of be like she's the flirty character that Sean will hook up with, but they're not actually serious. She's just there because Sean's a good lay, and he's going to get her what she needs as like she works for the SOE or whatever it
Yeah.
is. She works for the secret agency or whatever from the British, and Sean is a means to an end for her.
Yeah.
So I like her character in the sense that like she doesn't really give a fuck about Sean. Like she
Yeah.
does, but she doesn't at the same time. Like she's out for herself, and I think it's kind of nice to not like her character. I think it's kind of like the point
Yeah.
of it a little bit. And Veronique is just so much, like you said, so much more engaging of a character. With her whole character arc, even Sean has a bit of a character arc too, where he starts off only for revenge, but by the end of the game, he realizes that it's no longer about revenge anymore, and it's about like, this is bigger than you and me,
Yeah.
this is bigger than my little world, like I have to do this, I have to help with this because this is important, this is more important than anything else, including my revenge, which is something he kind of comes to the realization at the end of the game. And in all honesty, like one of the things that I've been really um vibing with over the last couple months has been Lord of the Rings,
Hmm.
and I'm going to tie this back to this, but like the whole scene, extremely mild spoiler alert for those who may not have watched the Two Towers, but like when Merry and Pippin are talking to the Ents, and they're like, we're not going to go to war, and they have the whole speech of like, but you're part of this world, like it's going to come to you. And it feels like Sean kind of has that Ents come to moment when he realizes like, I'm part of this world, whether I want to be, whether I want this or not, like whether it's part of my plans or not, it's going to happen.
Hmm.
So my revenge is not going to be, it cannot be the front and center of everything forever.
Yeah. I also think that like this game is really good because first of all, love to kill a Nazi in a video game, never feel bad about it, always look forward to it. Um,
Hmm.
but also to that end, Dierker, who is the driver at the beginning of the game that you find out is actually experimenting with the Nazis, like is a well-written character that is easy to hate. Like he's designed to be punchable, and like they do a
Hmm.
really great job to the point where like at the end of the game, so you have to find him after you sabotage the race, and you blow up the victory stand. He kind of crashes out and starts killing his own men, and like climbs to the top of the takes the elevator to the top of the Eiffel Tower, and has like lost his mind. And you have this standoff with him at the end of the game, which I expected to turn into a shootout because it's a video game, and usually there are boss
Hmm.
fights, but it's not. It just cuts to Sean. You're holding a pistol. You put one in his head, and he falls. And like it's funny too because there's like as you're climbing, taking the elevator up the Eiffel Tower, you see other Nazis who are either dead or like drunk and like begging for whatever. And I wouldn't listen to them. I just put one in their head. I didn't care. Like I don't know if you were meant to feel bad in that moment because even their leader turned on them or whatever, but like I just shot my way up the tower and then took him out. It was just kind of I don't know if it was a relief. It was like it was cathartic for sure to watch him fall. And the best thing is when Dirker falls to the ground and the color spreads from his body to
Yeah.
the rest of Paris is just awesome. But like I thought it was really awesome that they didn't force a boss fight there because there are a few sort of boss fights like it's mostly like waves of enemies, kind of like a horde mode kind of thing where you have to take out waves of Nazis and survive and then you win. There's no like specific boss characters. They're just like named characters you need to kill. But like it would have been really uncharacteristic of this game to have like a weird boss fight at the end where he's got a ton of health and he's hard to kill. They didn't do that. They just let it end. They let the narrative carry it. And I like that because not all games would make that choice.
I'm with you on that. At first, I wasn't quite sure about it. Like you were saying, it didn't fit the narrative arc, and I was with you on that to an extent. But then the more I thought about it, the more I'm with you. Like I agree with you, and I think like I think the impact of leading up to, because it's already pretty challenging alone. Because I believe to get to that area, you have to escape like one of the largest like Nazi, like one of the largest like alert or what is it? Like a wanted windows or whatever. I remember it was like a level 5 or some shit like that. It takes forever to get away
Hmm.
from it. Um but once you, because like you're coming out of the factory, yeah, it's the factory level right beforehand, because the factory level, like where it's right before, like you think Dirk is going to be there but he's not, and you're there to rescue a scientist who's defecting from the Nazis, and you rescue his daughter and him, and the Nazi dude helps you get out and everything, and that's a really challenging area. Like that's for all intents and purposes, that's the boss fight, right? Like it is this it's wave after wave of enemy followed by a very long like escape where you have to drive away. Where I ended up just honestly hoofing it because I could not. I could not seem to find, like my car ended up getting damaged so bad that I had to just like sprint the fuck away.
Hmm.
Um, but then once you do and you escape, and then you know where Dirker is, he's at the top of the Eiffel Tower. And dude, I mean that's where I couldn't take screenshots on my PS3, and like I said, even if I could, I don't have Wi-Fi, and I don't really have I don't have a camera card to like switch it over to my PC or anything like that. So my screenshot for when I posted on Blue Sky was just me taking a picture of my TV screen, which was something. Um, but like coming up to the Eiffel Tower, like I think what's so good about it is you're consistently expecting some type of fight, some type of like holy shit, like this is going down. How is this going to end? I don't know. Only to then get to it, like you get to the Eiffel Tower and everything's burning. There is wreckage everywhere, and you're walking through like this gate with everything burning around. It's one of the most cinematic like parts of a game I've ever played
Hmm.
that isn't necessarily like where they don't force the camera to do something cinematic, it just feels so epic going to the Eiffel Tower. I'm looking at my Blue Sky post right now and just seeing like you could see the Eiffel Tower, you could see like built like other parts of like towers burning and fires on every side of it, and you're just like walking up to it, and then you slowly ascend the Eiffel Tower, and like you said, only to get to the top, and then there's nothing, like there's no fight. You can just shoot him in the head. Apparently you can also like just walk away. You can choose not to, and I think he kills himself or something like
Hmm.
that. I'm not quite sure. I don't think that would have made thematic sense. I think Sean taking him out was the smart way to do it. And I think like what you're saying, there's a bunch of like completely defeated Nazis. Like they just watch their commander murder everybody else around them because he's just losing his shit. And I did the same thing. I think I took all but one out because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna have to. Like for some reason, I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like game managing, right? Where
Yeah.
I was like, I better not take everyone out, because what if that's going to like make it harder for me later on or something like
Right.
that. What if I kept them all, maybe I would have only had to fight these guys on the way down.
Right.
But no, it wasn't any such thing. But the way I kind of felt doing that, like I didn't feel bad. I felt, how can I put this? I felt sad because it's like you ever I don't know if I can use this as an example because it would spoil a book I just read. So I'm not gonna say the book or what it was, but there's a book I just read where um this the main character of a book is this queen, and I'm not gonna say their name or anything like that just in case it gives too much away, and they find out that one of their guards is a traitor, right? Is a traitor to the cause and everything. Um, and so there was a moment earlier where the queen had like also met another traitor, but like basically the traitor was trying to redeem themselves when like she kind of happened upon them and like was almost killing themselves trying to do the right thing, versus the traitor in her own knights was not. And so she gives mercy to, at least I'll find out when I read the sequel what she's going to do with this one dude who was trying to do the right thing. From what I can tell, she gives mercy to the one dude who's like losing, like borderline going insane, trying to do the right thing after he already uh, made a poor choice. But her own guard, she like, there's no happiness in it, but she kills him. She slits his throat because there's like, listen, like I'm sad, I don't want to do this, but like look what you are, type of thing. Like look what you did. And this, it kind of was the vibe I felt in this moment where even though I hadn't finished the book when I beat this part of the game, where it was like I wasn't enjoying having to do this, but it felt like the right thing to do because look what you are a part of. Like look what you did. Like millions of people are dead and murdered, and you've subjugated an entire city. Like no, I'm not going to let you live just because you're sad and defeated. Like am I going to be extra brutal about it? No, because I'm not happy about it. But you deserve no sympathy at the same time.
Right.
It's a really interesting emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so the only other stuff with the story that I want to touch on is like, and I thought was kind of weird, was one of the missions. I have a video of the gameplay up in the background. Like when you're doing missions for like the SOE and everything like that, one of the weird things is they do almost like some Indiana Jones shit where like, it's referenced throughout the game, but I don't think it ever comes back. You like, it almost seems like you found like the Ark of the Covenant. Do you know what I'm talking about, Matt? Like you find a treasure chest and there's like some gold shit in
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah, and like
Is that ever referenced again?
I mean, they never tell you. I think it's meant to be the Ark of the Covenant, but yeah, they never tell you what's in it. And like Sean sees it, but the player doesn't. And then Sean has to pretend he didn't see it so they don't kill him.
And the only reason I'm bringing it up, because it really has nothing to do with the main storyline, but it's a very bizarre, like they give a lot of attention to it,
Yeah.
like multiple
And
times. It's
and
weird.
then it's gone, and then we never hear about it again.
Yeah, that's honestly the only like negative part of the story for me is that I know that's really minor, but like there's just no point to it. It feels like a MacGuffin. Well, it is a MacGuffin. It's just it's very strange. Um, so yeah, I don't have much more to add to the story on this, Matt. Do you have anything else to add before we go into final thoughts?
I don't think so. I mean, I think going through the story, now you can hear my voice starting to go.
Yeah,
I
mine's back a little bit.
think I gave you some of mine. I passed you some of my aura.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm a sharer. But yeah, no, I mean, I think going through this story with a fine tooth comb defeats the purpose. Like the basic gist of it is that you fight back against the Nazis, pushing them out of Paris and like to sticking it to them. And it's just done really well. I think it's done well for the kind of game it is. It could have very easily been much trashier, and
Yeah.
it's not. I think it's a fun, like if you like Jason Statham movies, especially some of his more recent like action-y focused stuff, you'll like this game. Like it's a 1-to-1 basically. Um and yeah, I really dug it, and I liked the like there's a betrayal later. One of the characters who's been supplying you with like gear and
Hmm.
guns and stuff ends up betraying you and ratting you out to the Nazis, and it like there's twists and turns to it that I think is done really well, and is full of surprises like that ending scene that I think really adds to this game that could have just been an okay romp and we probably still would have had a great time. But the fact that this story is so solid, I think escalates it to another level. And again, the voice acting was really good. It wasn't great. I think
Yeah.
some of it was a little cheesy, but like Veronique's performance was sometimes really great and sometimes a little stiff. But I think
Hmm.
Sean was stiff in that action hero-y cheesy kind of way that I really liked. Like I don't think he was really
Yes.
that stiff, but it was a very thick Irish accent. Don't think the voice actor was Irish, although I could be wrong. I
I
think
don't think so either. It felt like it broke a handful of times.
right. But to that end, it felt cheesy in the way that like a good 80s or 90s movie is. And so like I eventually adjusted to it and it never bothered me.
I'm with you on that. Now, real quick, you professing your love of Jason Statham reminded me of two things. One, before I'm doing still muppeting on the show with Doug from the Nostalgia Marcanon podcast. My other idea prior to that was still Stathaming. Uh, I may, if I end up doing that, I will let you know,
Please.
because there's obviously a big variety, a big catalog of Jason Statham movies to choose from. And in thinking of that, there's an upcoming one. Did you hear about his upcoming movie involving a bike? I don't know if you heard about this at all.
Yeah, what was the name of it? I'm blanking on the name of it.
It's Jason Statham is to play Jason Statham in Jason Statham Stole My Bike.
Yes, I did hear about this. Yeah. It sounds like it's going to be a self-aware kind of like the what was that movie that Nicolas Cage did
Oh yeah, I know what you're
recently
talking.
with Pedro Pascal
Yeah,
where he played himself being kidnapped by a dictator. Like it sounds like it's going to be in that vein. It's going to be goofy. And like Jason Statham could do goofy. I've seen what was the oh my god, the movie where he has to take a lot of drugs to keep his heart going. I can't remember the name of it now.
Crank,
Crank.
Crank one and
Crank 1
two.
and 2. Like those movies are goofy as shit. So like
Those movies are
oh,
wild.
so crazy. The sequel especially when it involves electricity. I just man, like the fact that Amy Smart came back for a sequel and said yes to some of the scenes is just like clearly they understood how ridiculous and goofy this was and did it for the lols.
hmm
But yeah, so I'm in for that movie. Whatever it ends up being, I'm totally in.
Still Stathaming. You stay tuned, Patreon listeners. Who knows? Maybe after Still Muppeting, it'll be a full series dedicated to Jason Statham. But no, I'm with you on this, Matt. For my final thoughts on this, it's this game could have been. I went in thinking this game was going to just be average. Like, I'm not going to say mediocre, because that usually has a negative connotation. I would say it's like it's not mediocre, but just, I was expecting like a solid 7 out of 10 game,
Yeah.
right? Maybe 6.5 on a bad day, but like 7 out of 10. And what I ended up getting is, in all honesty, and I don't normally give like number rankings, but if I did, I'd give this like an 8, maybe an 8.5. Like, this game, I think, was much better than I was expecting it to be. I think also part of my enjoyment of it was just going into it with no expectations. I was not expecting to like this as much as I did. I was expecting to be just kind of neutral on it. And it ended up being just a lot of fun. And it's like you said, between the story, the soundtrack, the music, like it's a game that really is at least a 7 out of 10 or better in every single facet of it, in terms of visuals, in terms of music, in terms of story, in terms of gameplay. Like, every single element of this game is at least a 7 out of 10. I would say like the gameplay for me is like a 9 out of 10, only because it's so janky it's fun. I think objectively it's lower than that, but like, I can't help it. Like, the fact that my controller loses its mind and starts hurling grenades everywhere, and then I have to run away from the Nazis investigating heads, is one of the most fun things that have happened to me in a game. And I know I can't give the game credit for that. It's my controller, but that's my experience, man. It was a great time.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. For my final thoughts, like it's funny. I'm with you. I expected an average experience. I'm taking back the word mediocre. We did a whole episode of the podcast on like mediocre games and how games can be mediocre and still be a lot of fun and still be great to you. And that, whatever you like, and that's okay. Also, objectivity in most of this stuff is an absolute lie because we bring our personal experiences to these games. And
Yes.
any game that lets me punch a Nazi is already going to be much higher on my scale. But like, I went into this like you, expecting it to be fine. Like, we'd have fun and we'd talk about it. We'd explore some interesting things. I end up having a blast. This is like probably not in my top 10, my top 25 or my top 50. It could be. I had a blast with this game. It's easily one of my favorite open world GTA style games. I probably like this better than a lot of GTA games because I don't like, I have fond memories of 3 and Vice City and Andreas, but I haven't played anything since then. And like, those games haven't aged well. We know that for a fact with the recent
hmm
ports. So like, as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the better ones of those. And I had an absolute blast with it. So like, in my heart, it's like an 8 or a 9 because I just had such a good time with it. Like, I didn't dread playing it. I never did. Like, I looked forward to this like I was playing a new game that just came out in 2026. So for that alone, like, I highly recommend it and think that if you've been on the fence about it and you were like, oh, I don't know, and anything we talked about today interests you, absolutely pick it up. It's always on sale on Steam. It runs great on Steam. It works with a controller. I really can't recommend it enough. And I'm like, thank you for having me on to talk about it, because I don't know when I would have pulled the trigger on finally playing it if you hadn't. And I'm so glad I did, because I found a game that I genuinely think might be a favorite, of this genre for sure.
Yeah. I'm glad that you agreed to come on, man. This was a lot of fun to talk about, and I think more than anything, I hope it sheds it gives spotlight. It highlights an underloved game, man. Like it's really good. It's really freaking good, and it's not talked about enough. It really isn't. I think whether it's because it came out at the same time as Assassin's Creed, or it might have been one of those ones where it's like people, knew about it, but it's like, oh, I remember the Saboteur. It was fine. Like I heard it was all right, and then never actually gave it a shot. I feel like it's one of those games where people heard it was like a 7 out of 10, and because of that, they're like, oh, I'll get around to it. I'll maybe it sounds all right, and then just never do, because that's how human nature is. That's not like an indictment against people. It's like, it is what it is. So yeah, I'm glad we both got to experience this, man. This was a lot of fun. We both highly recommend this game. Like,
Yeah.
go give it a try. It is very much worth it. So yeah, let's wrap up this episode, Matt. We're both on the verge of losing our voices.
Yeah.
I said, when did I say this? It would have been in the Zelda cartoon episode that came out earlier this month. I'm recording this in the midst of being sick, as well as a 6 podcast recording stint. Like, this is my 4th out of 6. So my voice is going to be a little all over the place, y'all, but we made it through. We went an hour and a half on this, a little less probably after editing. So yeah, this was a good time. So Matt, where can the good people find you online, and what would you like to promote?
Thanks. So again, thank you, Josh, for having me. I love your show. I love coming on. I'm a listener and a patron. Still, my heart goes out to Mr. Biscuits every time you say it. But like, I love the show, and I'm grateful to be friends with you and to be a part of it. And so I'll come back anytime, and maybe I'll be back soon. Who knows?
Who knows?
But yeah, and I'm in for just Stathaming. Like, you just say the word, like the bat signal. What would the bat signal for Jason Statham be? Like
a bald head.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's always a joy to come on. So I'm happy to be here. And as for me, the best place to find everything I do is djstormageddon.com. It takes you to my link tree, because I'm old, so I don't have Signals or whatever else people are using now. And it has links to both of my podcasts, Fun and Games, which I do with the incredible Jen Moonen, and Reignite, which I do with the incredible Frankie Bradley Lestrange. Very briefly, Fun and Games, if you've not listened, is a broad topic-based discussion podcast. We interview game devs, we interview composers, we cover genre retrospectives, console retrospectives, all sorts of different topics that we sometimes decide 5 minutes before starting to record. As of when we're recording, but way probably after this comes out, we just actually went outside our comfort zone. We've become good friends with the folks over at Kess Entertainment, who make a ton of video game adaptations into board games. And we had the head of the company, Adam Kessler, on to talk about the licensing process for video games to turn them into board games. They've had a bunch of successful Sonic games that have come out recently. They're working on a Final Fantasy game that covers the first 3 Final Fantasy games. And so that was a really fun conversation, and a little outside the norm for us, because it was more board game focused. And so, yeah, definitely worth your time. And then we do a sub-series in the feed called Side Quests. Josh has done several on a variety of games where a person talks about a game they love and why they love it. It's short form. They come out 3 times every 2 weeks, and really a great listen as well. And then Reignite is a play-along podcast, started as a Mass Effect podcast. Now, currently, we're playing through Dragon Age 2. And most importantly, besides talking about the in-depth choice-making in these games, we talk about the real shit, which is who you want to kiss. And so if you're into that, definitely turn to Reignite as well. All of that is available on my link tree, as well as my socials, my merch store. I have merch for my podcasts and for other stuff. And yeah, if you want to interact with me online, djstormageddon.com on Blue Sky, and DJ_Stormageddon on Instagram. Those are the places I'm active. So yeah, that's the not brief pitch from me.
All right, everyone, please go check out all of Matt's stuff. I will include links in the show notes for you to find it. As for myself, you can follow me on Blue Sky at stillloadingpodcast.com, on Instagram at Still Loading Pod, on Threads at Still Loading Pod, though I don't really do much over there. It's kind of like a mirror of Instagram. I'm also on Twitch at Still Loading Pod, where I stream whenever the hell I'm able to. Just kind of depends on my schedule. If you like the show and you want to support it, the easiest way to do so is give it a 5-star rating or review on whichever podcasting app you use. It helps more people find the show and it pleases the algorithm gods or something like that. You can also support the show over on Patreon, patreon.com/stillloadingpod. For just $1 a month, you get all the episodes a little bit earlier with better audio quality, as well as access to patron voting rights, which this episode will already be out by the time the current poll is over. But right now, my patrons are voting for some PSP or Nintendo DS games. Help me choose what to cover next on the show. We'll see. I don't know who's going to win, but at the time we're recording, Trace Memory is winning, excuse me, for the Nintendo DS. So you'll find out in a couple months if that ends up staying the case. Who knows? For $3 a month, you get what I mentioned previously at the $1 tier, plus patron shoutouts, which you heard at the beginning of the episode, which Matt is a patron of. For $4 a month, you get all the previous tiers plus 2 mini bonus episodes every month. And for $5 a month, you get everything, all the previous tiers plus my monthly movie podcast, which I mentioned before is Still Muppeting, the only Muppet movie podcast where me and Doug from the Nostalgia Marcanum podcast play the music, light the lights, and we talk about the Muppets on Still Muppeting tonight. And who knows, maybe Still Stathaming is coming down the pipe. Who knows? We'll find out. But that's all over at patreon.com/stillloadingpod. And yeah, that's it. That is all the time I have for you on this episode of Still Loading. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for tuning in to Punch a Nazi Month. There's one more episode to go. And yeah, that's all I got. Matt, thank you once again for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And with all that said, listeners, I will see you all next time.